So, good morning and happy Friday to you. I thought today we could start our day off by talking a little bit about transition points, um, and maybe just, bring to light some of my personal experience with that whole starting a new process because I know that there's a lot of you who are at a major transition point, and it's either relationship or it's career wise, and it's pretty hard and it's pretty heavy, and I never profess to have all of the answers, but hopefully, maybe something from my journey, my experience, can help you when you're sitting at that point. Um, I would say that when you feel that something is wrong, or that when you're doing work, whatever, this is personal, professional situation, and the situation never seems to get any better, and you have triaged yourself to be sure that you're doing what is right, you are acting in the best capacity of other people, the people whom you serve, the people with whom you're in relationships, you eventually reach a point where you, it's like meeting a dead end. Like, this situation is literally a no go. And no matter what I do, no matter how much I give, the situation seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And when you come back and you have dialogue and you ask, what can we do to make the situation better? And the people or the person says either nothing's wrong, or, do this, or you never, blah, blah, blah. And then you morph and you do those things. And then when you come back, the results are still disastrous. And it's kind of like every time you give more, it gets worse and worse and worse. It's probably time for you to, exit stage left. And I'm telling you, it's a scary moment. But what I found is that the scariness is not in the decision. The scariness is leading up to the decision before you commit. Okay, everybody has transition points in their lives, whether, coming from emergency background, you see every day, like, the frailty of life and the preciousness of life, that someone can literally be here 1 second and they have a freak accident and they are gone 60 seconds later. It's that's how life is. But, much on that analogy, people in the, in the medical healthcare, realm of things, they get nervous before they learn a diagnosis. Once, they may not like whatever diagnosis it is, but once you have the diagnosis, then all of a sudden, like, you move your mindset from, okay, this is what we're dealing with, to, what's our plan of attack and how are we going to move forward to beat this thing. Like, that's the switch. And that's the exact mentation that you use when you're at a transition point, that it's leading up to that decision, that you're kind of like hemming and hawing and thinking, what, well, maybe if I try this, this is going to get better, and this is going to get better, and if I give more, and if I do more, and if I and it never does. And it seems like you're always spinning your wheels, and you're always making excuses, and you're slowly eroding away on the inside, if that makes sense to you. And I think one of those things, when you are a fighter, and when, I think especially when you have had that calling to a service industry, nursing, is that you're always walking that line between, do I try harder and hang in here because, this is a rough road that I'm on anyway, or is it literally time for me to walk away? And you can't lie to yourself. At the end of the day, you have to eventually sit down and have that honest conversation with yourself. How is it today? And if I keep on doing this, how I'm doing this now, and this person or this situation is not growing with me, like, there's no compromise here. It's just like it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. You have to look down the road and have that honest, like, if this is like this now, what is this going to be like in 5 years, in 10 years? And then, is this my opportunity to do something else, or acquire a new skill set, or do, what I'm saying, like, change something. And it's not always just how you are giving. Sometimes it's your perspective on the situation and moving yourself more into an offensive position rather than hanging out on the defense all the time. So once you take back your power and you are like, you're honest about the shit which is going on, that transition point is not scary. It's actually, it's very liberating. But usually when you're making giant transition points, they usually, I think the older you are, they also are tightly attached to a financial situation. And again, I don't find that it's the actual financial situation that people have a problem with. It's during those immediate times of transition that when finances are involved in it, sometimes there's a little bit of a breakdown before there's a breakthrough, and it's whether or not you're willing to allow that drop in your lifestyle if that's what the situation entails. Sometimes when you're transitioning, you're moving up the ladder, and you're earning higher income, or the cutoff of whatever was bad, yields like pretty quick results. But for me, that was not the case. Obviously, I went from earning stable, predictable income to building a startup company, and it was not a lateral job transfer in any way. It was from this to to like nothing, and it was rough. But you know what? You grow through your transition, and when you're building, you build it, excuse me, how you want it. And for me, I went back to nursing a couple times, and when you're not your longevity, your wellness, your Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs is threatened. Like, you don't have food, which I didn't have a couple times. Like, I kind of stayed quiet about what the hell was going on the past 5 years. I mean, there was a lot of volatility in there, and just focusing on my own shit. But I mean, the past 5 years were freaking no joke, dude. I mean, like, and dudettes. It was, I could easily say that the past 5 years were probably the worst 5 years of my entire life. Um, there was like breakdown happening on every front. And, you get through it. Um, you will learn very quickly in your transition who is actually for you and who is not. Um, when you persevere through it, I can say comfortably now I'm in rebuild phase. So then once you're in that mode, you're no longer in like breaking down, the shit that's bad. When you're in rebuild, you can move so much faster because you are now building on a very stable foundation, but everything is dependent on you. And if you choose to put on cement shoes and drag yourself through a process, like, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to be very, very painful. But even when you navigate those rocky waters, your attention has to be, what's my end goal? Is it a certain, is it financial goal? Is it lifestyle goal? Is it, I want to have quality time with my family? Is it, I want peace in my life? I want loving relationships in my life. I want to reclaim my fitness so I can have more energy and go do stuff. Like, every person has a beginning when you move through that transition. But I promise you that it's only until you make the decision and you commit that it seems so scary. Everything that you've done in your life up to that point has prepared you for this next level. And, for me, that's where your faith comes in. And when hang tight with God, and you're praying for wisdom, and you're praying for discernment, and then you're praying for direction, that He will guide your steps, and He will always put in front of you people. Like, you will have teaching angels who just kind of like show up out of nowhere, or they'll say something that sparks your inspiration and your hope, and you'll know whether or not you have made the right decision, You'll know what the next steps are, and it's done from such a place of peace and power that when you look back as to how things used to be, you will see how toxic it was, or how abnormal it was, or how miserable you were, and that will re-infuse why you started, and it will fuel you to keep on moving forward, and your growth process will be so fast after that. But the one thing that I will say hands down, I think especially the older you are, I started over, I was in my 40s, is that by the time I had left my last job, working for one hospital system, like my health was just cashed, and I thought that I had fibromyalgia, and I was getting nosebleeds every day, and it, like, everything in my body hurt. It hurt to sit, my hips hurt, like my skin hurt, everything was bad. And so what I did, that first, I think, 6 months, was I actually committed to reclaiming my health. And that's one of the reasons why, in my company, I have both what I call muscular development coaching, which is, physical training, nutrition, and the recovery that goes into, health promotion, and the life coaching. Because usually people come forth because they want to be healthy in order to do something different, or to go and move on to the next chapter of their life and climb to the next level. And so one feeds the other. So for the one thing that I would say is that when you're in that transition point, make sure that you are setting your goal on something that you are aspiring to do, something that draws you to it. Make sure you're not making these abrupt changes because you're trying to avoid something or run away from something, and then dovetail in and optimize your health. And what you're going to find is that your mind is going to clear, your body's going to start to feel a whole lot better, and then that's going to be that will be like your channeling factor to then move you in the right direction, right, and give you that strength and the clarity that you need to persevere through some of those rocky times which happen in the beginning, following basically either when you rip the band-aid off or cut the cord on whatever it is that you're doing to switch and do something new. But I'm here to tell you 100%, like, it's never too late. You can 100% do it. All right. You'll be in my prayers. I don't know who this is for. It's a long road, but I can 100%. And I know I say it a lot because I really mean it with all of my heart. It's never too late. It's never too late for you to recreate yourself. It's never too late for you to start anew. Just focus on your goals, stay tight with God, and you will always end up in the destination that is honest to God, like the best for you. All right? Make it a great weekend. Today's Friday, TGIF. Mwah, and I love you. I'll talk to you soon.